everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hi, everybody.
Ruben Bressler.
Chag Sameach, everybody.
Cool.
That's
Now you do it, Evan.
Yeah, I do the stuff.
It's a phlegm-based language. You
Right.
have to say Chag Sameach.
Hag?
Happy holiday. Chag.
Hag?
Close. Sameach.
Sameach.
Close. Good enough.
All right, I'll take it.
Your chets are a little dry. You gotta get a little bit more mucus in your
feedback
chets.
Evan's never received before.
You gotta moisten up your chets.
We gotta moisten. All right, fantastic. Well, look, we also get started with our trumpet blast, and we have one this week from one of our top supporters on Patreon. They note this is one. This is about the changing of the amount of goodies that the Mastery Pass gives you in Arena, is what this is about. They said this is one of the many instances where a severe reprimand from the community and a reminder that a smattering of pros were not sheep or to be shorn or cows to be milked that might go some way to waking wizards up. Which is the thing. It's basically they also don't hear that it's incredible that WotC saw that the COVID-19 social distancing, stay the F at home, social change, and thought to themselves that this would be a great time to reduce the value of the Mastery Pass because their customers, i.e. prisoners, I don't know about prisoners, but okay, had nowhere else to go to get their magic fix.
The vitriol.
Woo, a little rough. And we'll get to that a little bit later about the
not
Mastery
just your
Pass
delivery.
Well, they gave it to
That
me
was a little rough.
and different chunks, and it was just tell me what you want me
You
to
got
say.
to work on getting like a polished script from people.
I know, right?
You gotta moisten up your delivery.
keep that delivery moist. All right, so this week the first pick is clearly Ikoria. Do note it's also Commander 2020, and I can't
Two
say
for the price of one.
Look, last year I thought they cracked the code. No kidding.
Yeah.
They had a day worth of spoilers, and at the end of the day, there was a video that featured the whole deck. Why did they not do that this time? I don't know. Every other spoiler was like, is it Commander? Is it Ikoria? Oh my God, that does what? No, we're not going to play that in Standard. Like, it happened like 3 times. It was ridiculous. Like,
I really feel for the grinders around this time. I mean, obviously, if you're just a Commander player, it's Christmas for you. You get all the toys. But,
Right.
I really feel for the competitive folks that are just like, oh, this is a really great card. I will never get to play with this because it's not legal in any formats that I play. And so it is a little misleading. And I think they could have done a better job of delineating between the two. But regardless, both sets look incredible.
both sets look really good, and for what it's worth, while sales are down, they're not that far down.
Okay.
Even if people have to wait for their stuff, people are still ordering. People are still very excited about Commander, very excited about Ikoria. These, like, the monster promos, like, let's try to kick this off right here. Ikoria kicked off with its trailer and the Planeswalker guide.
Such a good trailer.
I love the trailer. The trailer was
vast
great.
Improvement from Theros Beyond Death, which was very lackluster.
Harkened back to the Eldraine.
Yeah, very action-packed. You felt like you were watching a movie. It didn't take itself too seriously. It was fun. It showed us a new side to Vivian that we'd really never seen before. I was hooked.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Really nice.
So it sort of talked about Vivian Reed and how she was there and how she sort of saw the monsters and had a lot
And
of
she
empathy for
can
them.
shoot tigers with her bow.
Tiger bows.
We always knew when we knew the bow had the ability to like turn into things. So that had been around for a while, but it was still cool to see in action as opposed to just on a card.
Oh yeah, it was sweet. And so this world is all about the humans and the non-human creatures.
Yeah.
And with that, there are bonders, which can have, there's sort of ways to bond the creatures to the humans. The triomes, which is the 5 geographical regions. They don't want to call them wedges, so we'll just call them triomes, which that's fine too.
I like triome. That's a cool word.
It's pretty cool. A bunch of really cool artwork spoiled as they then tried to explain the mechanics for Ikoria. Look,
Mechanics have been a little polarizing.
I have never this is some of the most confusing mechanics I have ever seen in Magic. Cycling
is back.
Cycling is
Cycling is
back.
back. Cycling's great.
And there's definitely going to be a cycling deck. They've given you enough tools,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be great. But the idea of mutate. So mutate is a brand new ability where you're able to put all of the abilities of one creature onto another, along with usually an ability that says if this creature mutates, you get something on top of that. So along with, so the mutate itself is weird. You cast the creature for its mutate cost. A few things change about it. First, you may pay the mutate cost rather than the mana cost. The spell will require a target. You have to target a non-human creature you own. Mutate can be used only if you're casting the spell. If a creature with mutate enters the battlefield some other way, it just enters the battlefield. As the mutating creature spell resolves, instead of entering the battlefield, it merges with its target into one creature. I'm sorry, guys. It's just, it's ridiculous.
It's a little bit like Bestow as well, where if the target dies, it just becomes a creature. You don't get two.
Oh, does
or
it?
anything. I believe that was in the rules.
Right.
So that feels really nice.
So it falls off?
Well, no, it doesn't. So it's like Boon Satyrs. Like if you were to flash in a Boon Satyr and you were trying to bestow it on something, if your target dies, you just get a Boon Satyr.
Right. Yes.
You're not completely screwed.
Okay.
You also get to stack them, so you can choose if you want the
top creature or the bottom creature.
Yes, to be sort of the dominant.
Yeah. Which one you want to be the dom
Wow.
and which one you want to be the sub?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sensei's divining bottom. Got it. All right. So now look, there's this whole bit about the mutating creature spell the resolving mutating creature spell doesn't enter the battlefield. It simply makes the creature that was on the battlefield change characteristics, which is kind of weird. And as I understand it, if you kill the creature you're trying to mutate on, the creature still enters the battlefield. It doesn't kill it like it does enchantments.
Okay.
Which is totally different.
So that's like Bestow.
Right, which is like, well, yeah, sort of like Bestow, but they don't kind of mention it on the card, which is, kind of a thing. Okay.
Not a lot of room on the card. I mean, the other thing about mutate is that it takes up a ton of real estate on the card to try to explain what in the world is happening.
Yeah, and the last thing that I've found insane about mutate is that if you've mutated, let's say 3 or 4 cards together, right? You just got trigger salad on this thing, a bunch of stuff on it, and you clone that card with a clone type card.
Oh my god.
You get everything. All of the abilities come over, which is incredible.
It seems like this and the counters and everything, it seems like this in particular plays better in a digital format to where you don't have to really do the bookkeeping.
Right.
And I think even Aaron Forsyth posted a tweet today that was like, just so you know, we did test this with like actual paper magic, and we're convinced that it's going to be fine, because there was some criticism of, did you try this? Like, do you realize how clunky this could be? And so, he had to clarify that they did do their due diligence, but I think it's fine. I think it's flavorful. I don't fully understand it. I don't see myself really using it. I could be wrong, but it's fine.
There's some really good cards with it. Again, as our understanding of it is going to increase as we play with it, which will be a lot more interesting. They also have keyword counters. You can now give
this
creatures.
Is cool. I like this.
Cool. There are going to be punch-out cards in packs like there were with Amonkhet with brick counters and stuff. And these all have keywords like Menace and Hexproof and Lifelink and Reach and so on. And creatures can now give those abilities to other creatures, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. It's also easier to keep track of. If you've ever had like a weird, Odric type ability where it's like all creatures get blah, blah. No, you can actually physically give it to them now. And that's really...
Or riding the Dailu horse is what I first thought of. There's a 2 colorless and a white. I think it's an instant. It's like target creature gets +2/+2. Put a flying creature on it.
Put a flying.
And I was like, that's riding the Dailu horse.
Yeah, it really is, which is awesome. It does kind of take away. It is a little bit weird for me in that, this is one of those things that I think is cool. Don't get me wrong. But also I think further pushes sort of that digital space where this is easily kept up with. And also, there was a certain, I don't know, whatever.
Je ne
sais quoi. Thank you. Je ne sais quoi. About just a bit more like, I got a deck you got a deck. We can sit down and just play the thing, right? We don't need dice, we don't need counters, we don't need or coins or whatever. So this is some of that complexity in there, but I'm okay with it because I think the gameplay is going to be great.
It's going to be rough for the I don't believe in tokens crowd. You know, those people who don't bring their own dice and don't bring anything. You might want to start because it could really help. But I also like that it gives you new counters to play with. You know, we've certainly seen, you know, hardened scales and modular and +1/+1 counters done, you know, 3 ways from Sunday. Right. You know, we've also seen -1/-1s with Amonkhet, but this is really cool. And if you do have a way to, you know, add more counters or something like that, you know, you can add more flying and give more things flying or give more things that touch. I think it's a really cool space to play in. Even if it doesn't work out, I do appreciate that they're trying, and I'm anxious to see how it turns out.
Has cool stuff come out with a whole series of new tokens so that your judge who runs the in-store events for the Ikoria pre-release is going to walk around like a train conductor with the coin dispenser on their belt, like he's working at the arcade, and is like, "What do you need, Sonny? 14 tokens? Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching."
Give you 1 menace for 3 vigilance, please.
Right.
You know,
that's cool.
So. Let's come to our most controversial mechanic for Ikoria, and that would be Companion. Companion makes, at least me, feels very much like Hearthstone. Hearthstone has had cards in it that have caused deck building restrictions, and as a result, it has warped their metagames at times. To some people, I think it in a negative way, can create very repetitive game situations when you're seeing sort of the same deck with the same cards over and over. Regardless, let's get to it here. Karuga the Macro Sage was the first one previewed, and it was 2 Simic mana and 3 generic mana, so 5 total. It's a 5/4 rare legendary dinosaur hippo with Companion. Your starting deck contains only cards with converted mana cost 3 or greater and land cards, which, and here's the reminder text, is if this card is your chosen companion, you may cast it once from outside the game. And when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater. So for now, you have a card which will technically live in your sideboard, which you have to reveal before the game starts or as the game starts, and you can play it for free as long as your deck build matches the restrictions that it has. Has been called the worst mechanic for the health of Magic since Phyrexian Mana by Sam Black, which I think is kind of incredible. A lot of pushback and hate for these cards, to the point where the legendary Otter Elemental got pre-banned in Commander.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Commander is a little bit of a different beast. And I mean, the fact that you essentially have a 101st card and the card is just so cheap and so good. I mean, if you're playing red-blue, you're just going to be running that. And so this is something that's been happening in Commander. This is a larger discussion that's been happening. This idea of auto includes, you know, you've seen it when it comes to Sol Ring, that, you know, there's this impression that, like, if I'm playing Commander, I must be playing Sol Ring. And, you know, people are pushing back on that of, you know, do you really need to be running these cards? And I think that where Commander is in terms of a format, a lot of people are going to see that Otter as being an auto include. They're not going to think about what their deck actually does and is that card actually viable. It's just a good card that they're going to jam in there. And so while this has never really happened before with Commander, sort of a preemptive ban, I do think it's a good idea because of just it's so good. And you know, until people get to a place where they're able to make those decisions, if you really don't need this thing, not every deck needs Sol Ring, not every deck needs Cyclonic Rift. That decision does need to be made for you because it's going to lead to a really negative experience overall. And particularly in a format that really rewards the social contract and creating a good experience, I don't think that's going to create a good experience.
Yeah. First of all, it's an Otter include because it's an Otter.
Oh my God.
Second, it's even better than Sol Ring because it's always in your opening hand. And it doesn't count against your opening hand size. So in Commander, you usually have an 8-card hand, but now you have a 9-card hand if you meet the deck building requirement for Kyogre or Lutri or whatever these cards are.
I mean,
yeah,
we're gonna get.
I'll go on the record here. I hate this ability. I think this ability is stupid.
I think it's fine.
I think it's not fine. I think it's horrible, and I don't look forward to it.
I hope it's going to not suck. Okay?
I hope it's gonna not suck.
Because I feel like it's like it just keeps pointing towards this is going to be a negative experience for a whole variety of reasons. We're going to get to them here in a minute. So let's go ahead and start talking about some cards that we have picked out to discuss. And I'll bring them up here on the screen for you to watch if you're seeing the video. My first one here is Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the Biobox promo himself.
Of
Big
course.
Zilortha, Strength Incarnate doesn't even exist and will not exist unless this card is reprinted at some other time. Yeah. So Godzilla, King of Monsters is all by his lonesome as the king. Green, red, 3 generic mana, a 7/3 mythic legendary dinosaur. It has trample, and lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. So basically the opposite of Doran the Siege Tower. Yeah. So this is essentially a 7/7 when it's doing battle on the battlefield, but you could also kill it with a lightning strike. But I think this card is dope. I think it's a really cool card. I think it showcases the set really well. And ultimately, I think, if we're going to have the Toho monsters in our world, in the Magic verse, like, this is a great way to showcase them.
So wait, there's not a real version of Zilortha Strength Incarnate. There's only Godzilla, King of the Monsters?
Yeah, because it's a Biobox promo. There's been no other printings of that card. They had to give it a name, which feels kind of silly, quite frankly. Ruben, as the realization sinks in.
So wait, so all the others have like the Godzilla version, and then they have like a default in case you're not really into that. You're saying that Godzilla has the name of another card, but they didn't actually provide a backup card or a different.
Yeah,
correct.
Like the moth, like the luminous Biomoth is Mothra, Queen of the Skies or whatever.
Right.
But is also luminous Biomoth. This is just Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Right. So this card, I think, is super dope. And again, I've seen a whole wave of excitement from a world, like sort of the movie world, the movie fans that have gotten really jazzed about seeing these giant monsters in a different way or a different game.
Yeah, I think the monsters really play to how fun Ikoria is. Like, if I had to describe Ikoria with one word, I would say that it's fun, because you can't take yourself too seriously when you've got Godzilla in your format. And so I appreciate that, nothing about the storyline seems to be too serious or too grim. I like that the trailer was very, whimsical and fun and epic. And all the cards that we've seen, and there's a lot of animals, there's a lot of cuteness happening. I really appreciate that, because I think
so many foxes.
What was that?
So many foxes.
Yeah, and I think we really need that now, but nothing really solidifies that this is a fun set like those monsters.
So let's get to another card that has a whole bunch of words on it. Nethroi, Apex of Death. Now, these Apexes are big wedge-colored creatures with awesome mutate abilities. Yeah. This is also a Biollante, plant beast form in the Godzilla version.
What is happening?
Biollante.
What
is it? Biollante? What is it? I don't know.
Biollante.
That's not what I'm saying. You're fine. You're pronouncing it fine. My point is there are three cards on the screen right now.
Right. They're all three the same card.
Where do I get each of them?
You can
CoolStuffInc.com.
That's right. The Godzilla version is a box topper. You have to get that out of a booster box topper. That they come in now. The Nethroi Apex of Death, I believe you can get in packs, but you can also get in the collector's boosters. And there's literally a giant chart that also shows you that there are 3 of the Godzilla versions that you can only find in Japan, in Japanese booster boxes, that you can't get anywhere else. It is... Honestly, compared to so long ago when it was just like, is there a foil? Is there a non-foil? That's pretty much it. Like, it's just a hot mess. There's like 78 different versions,
and
12 ways you can get them.
And you guys mocked me when they first started pumping these out and you needed an actual spreadsheet to keep track of me. You guys were like, oh, she doesn't get it. But I'm telling you, it's gotten very convoluted. Like,
look, this is how bad it's gotten, okay? Foils are no longer twice as expensive as their non-foil counterparts. That used to be like the line, right? Yeah. Now they're like $1, maybe $2 above the other printing. Like, it's ridiculous. It's insane. Okay, let's get back to this card because it's dope. Nethroi Apex of Death is a green, black, white, and 2 generic mana. So that's 5 mana. So you have your Abzan plus 2. 5/5 legendary cat nightmare beast. It has mutate of 2 black and a Celestia mana. So and 4. So 7 mana total. So 2 black, Celestia mana, and 4. So 7 mana to mutate this guy. If you cast a spell for its mutate cost, put it over or under target non-human creature you own. They mutate into the creature on top plus all abilities from below it. It has Death Touch, Lifelink. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Let me tell you about a little magic card that showed up many years ago. It was called Revelark. Yeah. And Revelark was busted. Not because it returned things with converted mana cost. Oh, no. It returned things based on its power. Mm-hmm. And this does that exact same thing. And don't think you want to pay 7 mana to mutate it. Oh, no, this thing is only 5 mana. 5 mana for a 5/5, which is already fine with that touch and lifelink, for God's sake. Yeah, now you just mutate anything on it and go bananas.
Yeah, my boyfriend, who's normally a very wholesome Izzet mage when it comes to EDH, wants to build this. He wants this to be his commander, and I couldn't be prouder. And so I'm anxious to see how he's just going to break this thing in half.
I want to bring back my Cheery Woes deck from the pre streamer showcase thing, where I bring back a bunch of what's that card called? The new Blood Artist, the Black-White Blood Artist, and then a Woe Strider and 85 0/0s for X mana.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, because this is the type of card that is worded in such a way that is going to be abused all over the place. Yeah, that would
very
be my
easy to win the game, even in Standard, with the trigger. You don't need to attack. You can build your deck in a lot of ways, like Angels of Glory's Rise decks from back in the day. I mean, Angry Hermit was a deck that you had about 10 magic cards that existed when Hermit Druid was a combo deck. And so imagine how many, ridiculous combos are going to exist to just, mill myself, mutate onto this, win the game immediately. Yeah. It's going to be very easy to do.
And you also have a bigger sandbox to play in. I remember when Gruesome Menagerie came out, people tried doing the same thing of finding the right combo. And you were a lot more limited there because of, CMCs and things like that. But when you give people, 10 power to come up with, there's a lot of room to break that.
Let's move on here to Fiend Artisan. This was the CoolStuffing.com preview. So I got to see this one early and was just wigging out about it. It's 2 Golgari mana, green or black, for a 1/1 Mythic Nightmare. And when they make 2 mana Mythics, they're usually pretty insane. Yeah. It gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. For X and a Golgari, you tap and sacrifice another creature to search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, put it on the battlefield, then shelf in your library. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So you have Birthing Pod and a mini kind of Tarmogoyf into a monster card. Multiples are amazing. I don't know about cute. I know about dangerous.
Tell me that's not adorable. Chat, that is adorable. Look at that.
The other thing about this card, people are comparing it to Birthing Pod or whatever, but you can sacrifice a thing that costs 0 and go get a 3. Yeah. It doesn't have the mana cost restriction. Right. So all you need, whatever your mana heart's content can possibly dream up, you can go get out of your deck. Yeah. In addition to being a 2/2 mythic that will be a 5/5 on turn 4 or whatever. Right. This thing's absurd.
Yeah, it pods just for X of whatever you would like. You get to search your entire deck for anything that matches the cost that you put into it. Whew. We are in a world of powerful magic cards. I want to quickly run over my next 2 here. My 4th one here is Ruinous Ultimatum. The ultimatums are back.
Yeah, Wedge Ultimatums.
We're getting the Wedge Ultimatums. We got the Shard Ultimatums the first time around in Shards of Alara. Ruinous Ultimatum is 2 black, 3 white, 2 red for a rare sorcery that destroys all non-land permanents your opponents control. Oh my god, Fires of Invention exists and can freely play this. This thing is when you absolutely totally don't want to have any friends at the commander table, you just throw this sucker on there. We're done here?
Oh, yeah, it's Triome Ultimatums, not Wedge Ultimatums.
My theory on that is if they're letting you cast this spell, they ain't trying hard enough. That's all I'm saying.
Not Trioming hard enough.
If you're letting me get to that much mana and that specific color, you ain't doing your job.
These ultimatums are ridiculous. The Abzan one returns all the permanents from your graveyard to
Don't
play.
Be stealing my thunder.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mention that. All right, so let's move on.
There's a bunch of weird ones.
Here's my last one. It's really cool. It's really small. I was just going through the spoiler and I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What is this card doing here? Take a look at Bastion of Remembrance. It's a black and 2 generic mana for an uncommon enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. But note the ability. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life.
It's Blood Artist on an enchantment.
Yes, it's the unkillable Blood Artist on an enchantment. Multiples are amazing.
This is going in my She-Ray deck. Without a doubt. Have we seen this type of effect on a non-creature before?
I don't think so. At least not for sort of free, as it were. Like it's just what you want it to be. Multiples are perfect. It still makes that 1/1. They can't just sweep or exile both of them with lava coils or something. Like that card, I was like, holy crap! That's what Roast Riders, that's what the Aristocrats type decks have been looking for. Was that exact type of effect that's really hard to get rid of? Oh my god, that card seems terrific.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. So let's keep moving here. Aaron, what's your first one?
Well, my first card is the one that you tried to steal from me. As you mentioned, the ultimatums are back, and they're really positioning Abzan as being this sort of graveyard-centric wedge or triangle or whatever. And this is probably as good as it gets next to, the card that you mentioned. Eerie Ultimatum is my first card. For 2 white, 3 black, and 2 green, you get a sorcery that says return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, we talked about Gruesome Menagerie, we talked about your card, building your deck in a certain way or stacking your graveyard in such a way to really maximize this. When I saw this, I literally just screamed in my apartment. I was like, this is everything I want to be doing in life. If there's ever a way to cast this in any format, I am there. I'm probably going to throw together an Abzan EDH deck myself, and God help you if I resolve the spell, because it's going to be on. And I am so excited for this card.
Card seems super sweet. Let's go ahead and get the second one out. Can you get the second one out?
I promised Kendra I would insert this one into the conversation. The second card, I'm really it's just fun to say. I really don't care about it. My second card is Bushmeat Poacher. I'm sorry, I had to try. So Bushmeat Poacher is 3 colorless and a black. It's a creature type human soldier. The card itself is not bad. You can pay 1 colorless and tap it to sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and you draw a card. 2 power and 4 toughness. So it's fine, but I just remember going through Twitter and I was just scrolling really fast, and all of a sudden I was like, does that say what I think it says? And I just lost it. So lots of fun jokes there.
There are lots of cultures around the world that depend on bushmeat for a good portion of their protein in their diet.
God.
You can go online right now and purchase bushmeat jerky if you want.
I try really hard not to be dependent on bushmeat, but that's just
even if it's jerky.
All right, let's move on to a really ridiculous card. Aaron, what's your next card?
My third card is a card that people were really excited about right out of the gate. There's a lot of the legacy folks have been really latching onto this one, some of the vintage folks as well. My third card is Lurrus of the Dream Den. So Lurrus of the Dream Den is one of those companion cards. It costs 1 colorless and 2 Orzhov hybrid mana for a legendary creature, Cat Nightmare, with 3 power and 2 toughness. Companion says that each permanent card in your starting deck has converted mana cost 2 or less. It has lifelink, and then during each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. So you can crack a Lion's-Eye Diamond, cast this, and then get your Lion's-Eye Diamond back. And that's just the start of things. So I'm really anxious to see how people break this, because when you see things like 2 or less or 3 or less, that really is a dog whistle for older formats where the majority of the cards that are played are very cheap and efficient. And so I'm really anxious to see what happens if this is good enough for legacy or vintage play. And if it is, I will absolutely be there.
It's gotta be, right? Just for even if it's just for the decks that don't have creatures in them.
Right, like here's how crazy it is. Like Rich Shea, like vintage expert, has been playing for years and years and years and years. When this guy says this is more free than Black Lotus because it doesn't take up a main deck slot. Basically, you get 8 cards to start out with your game, no matter what. Like, where are we? What is happening? How ridiculously good are these freaking companions when it just goes off the rails in those older formats?
What decks can run this in vintage? Like Ad Nauseam Tendrils can, right?
Storm,
like,
no, because the deck building restriction, 2 or less.
But they run like Burning Wish.
Remember, permanents 2 or less, not spells. You can still run Force of Will. You can still run. Oh yeah. It's ridiculous.
So you can run Force of Will, you can run Ad Nauseam.
Mishra's Bauble, like that's just a free Mishra's Bauble activation every single turn. Like that's just what you get, because why not? So yeah, this card is just a whole handful of. I hope it's not as busted as it sounds.
I hope it is as busted as it sounds.
Fair enough. We got to be busting. All right, so let's keep moving here. What is your number 4 card?
My number 4/4 is a really, really exciting card that is playing in some interesting space in Commander. Finding new ways to make your commander cost less or to get around the commander tax. My fourth card that I'm really excited about is a Netherborn Altar. So Netherborn Altar is a black artifact, 1 colorless and a black. For an artifact, you tap it and put a soul counter on it, put your commander into your hand from the command zone, then you lose 3 life for each soul counter on Netherborn Altar. There are a lot of cards that can help you remove that counter. The Betrayal card from War of the Spark, the one that costs 1 black, you can remove all the counters that way. The Spark Warden, that weird Dimir zombie, removes counters as well. Thrall Parasite is something else you can use. There are a lot of toys that black has and other colors have, if you combine them, that can help you manipulate this. And it's also just a very black thing to do, wanting to get around the commander tax by paying life. It's not hard to gain life in black either, so you can mitigate that cost. I'm really, really excited to jam this and see what I can do with it.
Also know this is a Commander 2020 card. This is not a Ikoria card.
You'd have no use for it in Standard or anything.
Right. It'd be weird anyway.
Yeah, it's, Thrall Parasite, Hex Parasite, Aether Snap, I suppose. There's a bunch of ways to remove counters in black. This is a really interesting design space. So yeah, I like this one.
Very cool. All right, let's move on to your last choice here.
The last card I was really, really excited about is Seb McKinnon. This is a really great Seb set. He's been given a lot of really great pieces to do and has really knocked it out of the park with these almost prehistoric looking cave paintings. And one of my favorites is Mythos of Snapdax. So Mythos of Snapdax it's a bit of a tongue twister too, really. Is 2 colorless and 2 white for a sorcery. And this is a cycle of these cards where they do one thing, and if you pay additional colored mana, they do other things. Each player chooses an artifact, creature, enchantment, and planeswalker from among the non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. If you paid red-black to cast this, you choose the permanent. So I shrieked with delight when this came out. This is absolutely going in my Queen Marchesa deck. There's nothing more queen-like than just being like, you, and you, everything else dies. Like, it's just so awesome. It's so on point. The art is glorious, and I just love everything about this card.
Yeah, there's a whole Mythos cycle that he got to illustrate, which is pretty cool. Well, Mythos for everyone but a blue, apparently. I don't see a blue one option, is there? But either way, there was one where it like unsummoned or something. I can't remember. Either way, Mythos of Nethroi is the Abzan version, and just listen to this wording, okay? Just help me out here.
The wording is great.
It's a black and 2 generic mana for a rare instant. Destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature or if green-white was spent to cast this spell. What?
Yeah, I like that. The wording's great.
Like, I grok the fact that, okay, due to targeting rules, you have to declare targets before you pay cost, but oh my god, this has to be just one of the classic, this is one of the weirdest wordings I've ever seen in Magic. It's odd.
Yeah. I like the wording. I mean, they could have done, like, Fatal Push style wording, probably, but this actually is pretty clean to me.
This is the destroying the color of the creature that the other color isn't, or whatever.
Right,
like
Dead Ringers.
Yeah, it's just it just felt unnecessary. But Snapdax,
I'm not seeing a blue one. You're right.
Snapdax is super, super cool though. Apparently the blue one hasn't been spoiled yet, so I'll take it.
Cool.
All right, Ruben, what's your first one?
So I famously don't know like how Magic cards work. Like when new Magic cards come out, I'm just like, I don't know what that means. Like, it looks like it's the best card ever, but it could be terrible. So I'm seeing cards through the lens of the past. Cards that I can see being put into use immediately in archetypes immediately. And the one that seems to me to be the easiest to slot into existing archetypes is the Ozolith. The Ozolith is a 1 mana legendary artifact. 1 colorless generic mana legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. So, this is a super easy auto-include in anything that's using modular counters, right? Like anything that has Arcbound anything in it. Seems super good in like a Skullbriar EDH deck.
Ooh.
Anything that needs experience counters. I mean, obviously with all the new types of counters that are coming in, we are, you know, in a world where we want to get as many charge counters and as many +1/+1s, but also hexproof and lifelink and vigilance and all these other kinds of counters. And being able to put them in your locker after somebody casts a Wrath and then put them onto the next thing that you play is a really good security policy, all for the low cost of a colorless mana.
I mean, it's as cheap as they can make it. And I like Radyan in the chat here noting that the second ability can target your opponent's creatures, which means if you have a bunch of -1/-1 counters, you can be like, here, you go take these. Here you go. It's cool. You can have those. It's fine. It's free. Because that is a sweet ability. It's also very close to Giant Fan from Unglued, which was the sort of original artifact that moved around counters and changed types and all that type of stuff, which is interesting. And
I
also,
like that you brought up the image for Giant Fan. I'm very pleased.
Well, because I don't think anyone would know what it did otherwise, quite frankly. I couldn't even remember. I remember it moved around counters, but that was about it.
Yep.
But the Ozolith is really neat. Let's go to your second choice here.
So my second card is not only chosen just for the meme value. It is not only here because it's hilarious. It's also here because I think that this is going to see standard play.
Yes.
It's Shark Typhoon.
Yes.
Shark Typhoon, otherwise known as Sharknado, which they put into a Magic the Gathering expansion.
Oh, good.
Is 5 colorless and a blue for an enchantment that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. We're never casting this spell.
No.
This is Decree of Justice 2.0 because we're always cycling this card.
Yeah.
Yes.
X colorless blue for cycling is X colorless and a blue, a discard a card to draw a card. When you cycle Shark Typhoon, create an XX blue shark creature token with flying. So where does this go immediately? Fires of Invention, because you're not using your mana when on your turn or any turn really when you're playing Fires of Invention. So you drop your fires on turn 4, turn 5 you play 2 free spells, and then you cycle this and you get a free spell. And you get interaction in the middle of combat and you draw a card.
Yeah.
This is going to be, and it's not traditionally counterable, right?
It gets under Teferi, the 3-mana Teferi.
Does get under Teferi. So your opponent is going to play their Teferi. It's going to resolve. They're going to tick up or tick down or whatever, and then you're just going to have a surprise flying shark out of nowhere. So this card's very, very, very good.
There's a surprising number of sharks in this set.
And a lot of them have flash and flying.
Yes. Scary fast sharks. We need the Sharknado memes to be 100% on point, which is great. This card is dope. There is absolutely a cycling deck that is going to hit standard in some fashion. Maybe now, maybe later. Yeah. They've given you lots and lots of tools. There's a bunch of cycling for 1 mana, which has traditionally been kind of rare.
Yes. A couple of them have cycling for a colorless.
Yes.
Yeah. Which previous to this set had never been printed.
There you go. So,
well, Ash Barons did, but that doesn't count.
That was like basic land cycling or whatever.
Yeah.
But either way, this card in and of itself is just an absolute powerhouse. I like the Decree of Justice. I like that.
Oh, Decree of Justice.
That's pretty good.
Wow. Was that from chat?
That was from chat. Yes.
Nice. Decree of Justice is insane.
Excellent. Ruben, what's your third card here?
I need a minute for Decree of Justice. My next card is has the word Drannith in its title. Okay. We just talked about Drannith. We just talked about cycling. Drannith Stinger is the one that'll have an impact on Pauper. General Kudro of Drannith is the one that has the cool Ryan Pancoast art of his dad. That has like the angry dude with the green shoulder pad. But I want to talk about Drannith Magistrate. Drannith Magistrate is a colorless and a white for a 1/3 human wizard. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands.
Yeah.
Now, ERIN, I'm sorry. I know that this one makes your chromatic orbs ache. But in addition to angering graveyard mages, top of the library doesn't work, so no experimental frenzy or some other shenanigans there.
No adventures.
No adventures, right? Huge for adventures, and no command zone. So, and no sideboards for your companions. So all at the low cost of a 1/3. So this is like Tocatli Honor Guard, kind of. This is like gonna live in that area. I would be shocked if this didn't see a ton of standard play, at least in sideboards.
I mean, this is your safety valve. This is if they just went too stupid far with those crazy titans, if the escape was too good and all these things, slap this thing in your sideboard, play 3 or 4 of it as long as you're playing white, and you have a good answer, at least in most terms. There's no shock that's going to get it. There's no lightning strike right now. Is lightning strike even in the format right now? I can't even remember. I don't think so. Like, they got rid of that stuff. So these types of creatures and cards and effects are, that much more powerful as a result. So I love a safety valve. Like, give me safety valves all day. That way, Wizards can really kind of go nuts. Like, yeah, sometimes they'll still go too far, and the safety valves aren't good enough. But you'd rather the Shatterstorm show up in Mirrodin and not wait 3 or 4 sets to show up later, because we need the answers in those sets, not, later down the line.
Right.
Okay.
I actually really like this card. I know white has gotten a lot of flack in recent months for not being juiced enough. And between Ikoria and the new commander set, there are a lot of new toys for white that I'm really, really excited about. And, I like that they're playing in the space of, if white's going to be sort of this taxing, punishing color, this is a form of punishment we've never seen before. We've had containment priests and things like that, but, shutting off entire zones of play while not even really naming them is really cool. It'd be one thing if it just said you can't graveyard or you can't, from whatever. I like this open space, and I hope that they keep doing that. And I hope that these risks they're taking with white and these things they're trying to give white do pay off.
Right. The other thing here that's nice is, well, first of all, it's a human for modern, obviously. It's also got 3 toughness, and the most common removal right now is Bone Crusher Giant, and there's a bunch of -2 stuff. You've got like Cry of the Carnarium and Disfigure in the black decks. So I think that this is going to be really good.
Nice. And of course, if I hate something, would you say that I'm a hate bear? That's how that
well,
works.
We wouldn't say that, but the commenters will. So
that's the chat for you. All right, Ruben, what's your next one here?
It's no that joke was no decree of justice, but I'll take it. It's decent. It's decent. The last one is a card that is the card I thought you were going to bring up a uncard for, because it's essentially an uncard.
Yeah.
Flame Spill is 2 colorless and a red for an instant that says Flame Spill deals 4 damage to target creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. So if you target a 2/2 with your Flame Spill, it deals 2 to the creature and 2 to the player. If you kill a 1/1, it's 1 and 3, etc. This is super duper Death Ray.
Yes, literally.
It's literally super duper Death Ray, which was a instant burn spell that dealt 4 damage to a creature, and it had trample. Now I'm kind of bummed that it doesn't just have trample, but I'm excited that the ability is in standard.
I'm ready for spell trample, like overcharge, like whatever you want to call it. Like, give us this. This to me seems like a easy evergreen mechanic for red moving forward. Like, have red burn spells, red damage spells spill over to the opponent. Green spells can't do that. Green can fight. That's what they do. They fight between creatures. But the red spells can spill over and like hurt the opponent beyond that, which I think is super cool, flavorful, sweet. I love it. And you didn't want to talk about Call of the...
Did I? Did I want to call about... Oh, Call of the Death Dweller.
Yeah.
I forgot that I had another card.
You did.
I was so excited by my other thing. So in sort of apology to ERIN for my Drannith Magistrate, let's talk about a graveyard card. Your big legendary 5/5 lifelink Death Toucher is cute, but this is going to see a ton of play.
Yeah.
Call of the Death Dweller is 2 colorless and a black for a sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards with total converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a Death Touch counter on either of them. Put a Menace counter on either of them.
Jeez.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
So this is gonna draw 2 cards in black, first of all, and not just draw them, it's gonna put them onto the battlefield with bonuses.
Right.
So now your 1/1s for 1 are gonna come back with a Death Touch counter. Your 3/2s, your midnight
Knight of the Ebon Legion is going to show up with what, a menace and a lifelink counter?
With a menace counter.
Oof.
Yeah. Your Midnight Reapers are going to have menace, so they're going to be tougher to block. Your Woe Striders are going to have, everything's going to have stuff. Like, this is so good.
Yeah, people are calling this like the black cocoa, of just sort of having this sort of reverse kind of effect. I'm really excited about this card. It's certainly cheap enough to be, competitive play. They're giving us a lot of really neat graveyard toys in these sets. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of graveyard hate. Normally they don't let you have your fun. They really run that graveyard hate out there. So hopefully they allow, enough room for these decks to play, and I'm anxious to see what people do with them.
My God, you can get back Mayhem Devil with a Death Touch counter on it.
What? That's good, clean living.
Woo!
Very good. That's a good one. I like that one. That's the best one I've heard so far.
Stars and Garters. Oh my Lord.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Goodness, that is ridiculous.
I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
There you go. All right.
So yeah, there's a bunch of really so I mean, obviously the mythics and the rares are super flashy and super cool, but I had a lot of uncommons on my list, and the commons are super exciting too.
Yeah.
Like the Drannith Stinger is extreme. Like 1 mana cycling is something that we just don't see. Colorless mana cycling is something we just don't see. There's a bunch of commons and uncommons in the set that are just as exciting, if not more. I mean, than a lot of the rares.
The divination that costs 1 blue if you have a human and a non-human, like that's incredible. Like that's
not hard to do.
I mean, we ain't seen card draw like that since Mirrodin, I guess. Like seriously, that's nuts.
Yeah, that's Thoughtseize or Thoughtcast.
There's that one that costs 2 if you have a creature with flying, wings of something or other, or words of wings or something.
Yeah, winged words.
Winged words, thank you. So there's that, but again, that's not 1 mana. 1 mana is 1 mana. Like that's
also the cool thing about that card, that new divination, is that it gets flipped by both sides of a Delver of Secrets.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. Well, look, on Arena right now, you can play the Historic Cube. It includes all the cards that are in Historic right now. It does not include some of the stuff that we know is in the client, like they had Lotus in there, they had Sword of Fire and Ice, and I think Light and Shadow in there from earlier promotions.
Right, yeah.
Which is whatever.
It doesn't have Tidespout Tyrant or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. There's no Somber Hover Guards in the cube.
It doesn't have Gristlebrand, it sucks. Like, no, it's fine. This is a cube, and I love cubes. I've played cubes ever since back in the day. Wrote articles, made videos, had a website, the whole shebang. So I love me a cube. I've done very well on this cube. I can tell you a few things about it. First of all, the top 3 cards are Teferi, Liliana, and Garruk in that order. Teferi is just answers everything and his card advantage. Liliana is just stupid and takes over the game, and Garruk is also very dumb and takes over the game. Beyond that, you definitely want to look for your X for 1s. This is what I would describe as a transactional cube. It's very much about 2 for 1s, 1 for 2s, 3 for whatevers. Settle the Wreckage is nuts. No one's playing around that card. I don't know why. They put 7 creatures down and they just swing into that 4 mana, and I destroy these children.
I still can't cast that spell with a straight face. Like even to this day, I have it in my Marchesa deck, and I always am just like, settle the Wreckage. I can't
Furthermore, I haven't been able to build a reasonable aggro deck yet in this cube. I don't know if it's just me. I haven't seen one. Like, I haven't been able to be like, here's 23 cards that I'm not embarrassed to play in an aggressive strategy.
Right. I mean, I think I got lucky, in what I had, but I had a Boros deck that had a really nice curve. I played like 15 lands. I topped out at a couple of 4 mana spells, and I just jammed everything I had. And, just sometimes, because people are dirtling. Like, in this cube, you're dirtling, or you're trying to kill them as soon as possible, and most people are dirtling.
I saw a Chromatic Lantern in one of my pools and was like, we did it.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes. The 5-color deck is possible. Div Mizzet Reborn did give me 5 wins with Golos, and it was absolute silliness. The best 1-drop, for example, is Knight of the Ebon Legion, and it is not close. Like, it's not even remotely. There's nothing remotely close to that 1-drop.
The big bottom line for me for the Arena sealed Historic Cube is that it is Arena. It is Historic. It is not really Cube.
It's not a lot of Cube, mainly because you can't draft it. Like, Cube sealed's okay.
It also doesn't feel powerful.
It doesn't. Well, I think if we were able to draft it, we'd be able to see more of the synergies, between building your curve and like having a really sick aggro deck you could draft, or really sweet, blue-black control or whatever. Because right now it's just, I hope I get Liliana. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Teferi's there. I mean, like, you just don't know, and it swings so wildly as a result. Yeah. So, either way, moving on here, there is going to be a season 2 of the Magic Fest Online, which is awesome. There's going to be daily qualifiers. I can imagine they're probably streaming right now. They've been streaming, 24 hours a day for like a week and a half now?
Take a look. Yes, they are streaming right now with Olivia.
Nice.
And Nelson Salahub.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job of getting some fresh, interesting talent in coverage, and also pairing them up with people that they can bounce off of very well. Where you had, my friend Tappy Toeclaws, who's very, outspoken and comedic, and maybe doesn't know much about the competitive side of things, but pairing her with somebody like Huey Jensen, who makes a really great kind of foil for that. And so it's great seeing all these new names out there, people getting more exposure. It seems like these events are being attended very well. It took me a second to understand the format, but now that I do, it's been great seeing people do very well in them. Allie Warfield has had a great streak or two. There was a young lady named Ash Lizzle who did really well with a Rakdos deck. So I've been enjoying following all these new people I've never really heard of before and seeing how well they're doing.
Very nice.
Yeah. And that's Nelson from Loading Ready Run. I didn't realize that was his last name.
Yep, he was also involved with Planeswalkers for Diversity for a minute too.
Nice. Cool. So yeah, look, what more ways to play? I think people are just kind of itching and to get that competitive, thing going.
Stay sharp, yeah.
Yeah, just to keep the iron hot. All right, so moving on here, real quick here, there is a new book out, Magic the Gathering Legends of Visual History by Jay Anelli, which is awesome, community member.
Cool.
And I have some pictures on the screen for you now if you're watching the video. And this is sort of, a coffee table-esque, something cool to look through to see, for those who may not know a lot about Magic Legends and aren't literally hip deep in it all the time like we are, of like, oh, what does that dragon do? And why is that character the way they are? This is the type of book that will show you what they are.
The Ikoria book is also out by Django Wexler. I've heard very good things about that from the Vorthoses who've had access to that, and we know that they can be kind of harsh critics, and rightfully so. They've been burned before, and so it's nice to see a return to form in terms of Magic story.
Yeah,
I'll take a decidedly better story than the one that we got.
I will say for Jay Anelli, he has written a lot of the MTG 101s that I was doing voiceovers for. And always been great content, jam-packed with information, but not like, it's not hard to digest. It's not like trying to read a J.R.R. Tolkien manifesto, Right. It's easy. It feels good. It's like word suede. And so I would definitely agree that this is something worth picking up.
All right, let's move on here to Desperate Ravens, where we quickly touch upon the 2019 earnings report from Hasbro, where they go over sort of what their properties have been doing, how well they've been selling and whatnot. They note about Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering revenues increased more than 30% in the year, behind double-digit growth in tabletop revenues and a strong first year for Magic the Gathering Arena, and Dungeons & Dragons revenues grew for the 6th straight year, which is incredible. Last year, they said both are significant brands for us and also meaningful growth drivers across formats and in storytelling. Last year, we set a target to double the revenues of Wizards of the Coast brands over the coming 5-year period, and we're well on that path to accomplishing this mission. We have a plan to invest $200 million to $300 million over the period across multiple titles and platforms to create unparalleled gaming experiences and superior operating margins. Do note that we have not said a word in a while about the Netflix series that's supposed to come out this fall.
Sure.
That's one of those things that they can be investing in. Like, that stuff ain't cheap. Yeah. Working with the Russo brothers, like, that's serious talent. Like, we're talking big numbers here to make stuff like that happen. So $200
million to $300 million, those are big numbers. That bodes well for the future. This report sounds like every report, really, which is continued good news about Magic the Gathering.
I think it's continued good news about them selling singles, and very expensive collector sets have gone very well.
Sure.
So you think it's more like temporary infusions and not necessarily the sign of long-term success?
This is what we got when we got collector boosters, right? When you have a $25 booster pack, when you have a $500 to $600 collector version of your set is.
So you think that when we hear them saying that they're going to pump in 200 to 300 million more dollars, you think that is good, bad, neutral, and is the Good Job Wizards of the Coast, Good Job Magic the Gathering is not Good Job Wizards, Good Job Magic the Gathering. It is, in fact, Good Job Secret Lair and Good Job Single Booster products.
I think there's definitely a combination there. You know, I don't think any one thing has brought this, but so many changes that have been built to bring in more dollars, to have a higher dollar product, to have a Modern Horizons product that is more expensive. The cardboard is the same, you know, shiny cards are just the same old shiny cards, but you say they're more expensive, so they are. You have a Secret Lair product that they have just been cranking that thing over and over, and eventually that well is going to dry up, but it ain't drying up anytime soon, and they've had a bunch of them so far.
Well, it might dry up soon if nobody gets them.
Maybe. I mean, this is where, you know, there was the interview with Blake about the fetch lands and the fetch land Secret Lair, and like what, you know, how to, you know, we couldn't possibly take pre-orders from stores and then fill them on demand. That would take 5 to 6 months. Oh no one would ever wait 5 months if they could get as many cool looking fetch lands as possible at a reasonable price. Okay, fine, but like, you know, there's things that they've been doing to generate such incredible amounts of revenue and divert it from essentially the secondary market into their pockets. At some point, someone said, "Hey, you realize all those vendors at those shows are making like lots of money, right? You realize they're making money." They're like, "Wait a minute, they're making money."
That's where all the money is,
and that's where the money is. And they went, "Bam,
so
we can make as much as we want."
Why wouldn't Hasbro Corporate in Providence, Rhode Island, want to get their beak wet on a little bit of that singles action?
And that's exactly
hot singles in your area. 2 minutes left on the raffle, by the way, everybody.
No, actually, closed at 45. Go ahead.
Oh, did it? Oh, never mind. I lied. I'm a jerk.
It's
but my point is, my final point is, they specifically called out Arena again. This $250 million is gonna go towards mobile support?
Probably.
Question mark? Like, how are they gonna spend $200 million?
I mean, this is where you can get big faces for your commercials, you know, big time actors, big time producers. You know, this is where you can have big marketing stunts where you have, you know, live webcasts with like celebrities or whatever you want to do that way. This is where you can make more marketing materials to send to influencers. So you can have those cool looking boxes that look like a, you know, a fabled book or whatever, like a dream book, like they have for Eldraine or whatever, the storybook looking stuff. Even back to remember when Innistrad would send out like these, you know, these packages with like real rope and stuff used in them. That stuff isn't cheap. Like,
yeah, but that's not gonna.
It's not going to move 200 million bucks.
Right, like, that's what I'm saying. I feel like that stuff isn't. First of all, it doesn't cost $250 million, and second of all, isn't going to excite the suits in Providence, Rhode Island.
This is where you would say, for example, at one point, Pokemon did have a commercial on the Super Bowl. And it was actually, I think, a game changer. There was definitely a sales uptick at cool stuff for Pokemon stuff when that happened.
I could see that.
And I could definitely see them having a show on Netflix and a Super Bowl commercial in 2021 is not 100% out of the cards.
God, remember football games? Man,
you remember events? Remember when people got together and did things?
Remember gatherings?
Magic Online also seems to be doing quite well. MTGO traders announced that they are now paying 96 cents per event tickets on Magic Online before PayPal fees.
Wow.
Anytime you see discussion around the ticket prices, if they're going for more, that typically is a sign that the Magic Online economy is doing quite well and that people are playing Magic Online. So that's typically where I tend to play Magic, you know, being modern, legacy, vintage, things like that. So Card Hoarder, our lovely sponsor, also said that MTGO was doing well before the quarantine, has continued to do well after that. So I'm really glad to see that, and hopefully they're helping as well.
Like, I'm starting to come around a little bit to the point where it feels like Magic Online is such an ugly duckling, but they just can't ever get rid of it. Like,
it's consistent though, you know. It's like it's like that old friend that you know you can always go to. They'll always tell you you're pretty, you know. They'll always be there when you call. You know, they may not be the greatest fit for you or whatever, but they're there. You know, they're like State Farm. They're reliable. Just
all right.
State Farm,
not a booty
sponsor us, State Farm.
Fantastic. But look, you know, for someone who was like, look, they're waiting for that time when the lines cross and Arena makes more than online, I'm not sure that's going to be the case because, you know, if it's making enough money, which it certainly feels like it is, if the economy's doing well, which is great, obviously, you know, who knows how long it could go on. Maybe one day they actually actually, redesign, revamp the entire Magic Online system to something that looks a little bit more modern.
Yeah,
because
I think there's just a couple things in the way of that. I mean, obviously, excuse me, we need those. There are people that love those formats. They want their modern, they want their legacy, they want their whatever, they want their pauper, you know what I'm saying? And so unless you're able to give people that experience on Arena, you're not going to woo them away from Magic Online, or you need to make a really great standard limited environment that's also going to woo those people away. And I just don't see either of those things really being the case. Like, I'm not optimistic that these older formats are going to. I'm convinced there will be some kind of older format on Arena, but it won't be the modern that we know, or it won't be,
well, they're definitely getting to Pioneer is what it feels like. They're trying to
right.
get to Pioneer.
And so,
and see what happens.
that I don't think that'll be enough either, though. Like, I still think that the combined weight of those other formats is just not anything Arena's going to compete with. And I think both can coexist. I don't think it needs to be an either or proposition.
I mean, we certainly got to pour one out for whatever programmer had to put in Mutate on Magic Online. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
seriously.
excited. I need a screenshot of a melded creature that has been mutated and bestowed upon.
Oh, jeez.
in live or online.
You are a monster.
Just show me. It's
like
a monster.
Achievement?
Yeah, you got to just show me that Xbox achievement.
Goodness gracious. All right, let's turn the corner here to the finish. Tonight is the first night of Passover, which celebrates the people Israel's exodus from Egypt. It's a time for being thankful for what you have, even in the face of horrible disaster. Sounds fitting. So as we eat our kishkas and our kugel and our matzo ball soup, tell me, what is something you're thankful for right now, Aaron?
Well, I'm thankful for my friends, my family, my health, and my fans. But of course, I'm most thankful for the biggest supporter of mine throughout my entire career, the muted words function on Twitter. Just you add a word, add a handle.
No animal, no crossing.
No.
Get out of here.
I muted Thassa, I muted Oracle, I muted Animal, I muted Crossing, I've muted all the WrestleManias.
You muted the word animal.
Yeah.
So if I have a tweet that has the word animal in it,
never see it.
I'm just not going to see it. No. You can
What's
also
the most
block
recent
people.
word you did.
You can also block people and mute them, because sometimes you'll still get them. You'll still see them. But if you mute the handle and block, that's like an additional layer of you don't exist. It's
Goodness
really quite
gracious.
handy.
All right, Ruben.
It is. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to vacuum in here.
It'll be a first time for you. So.
How dare you? How dare you say something so accurate and yet so brave? Well, I'm thankful for Animal Crossing, for Doom Eternal, for The Office, for Friends, for Frozen 2, for Cat Oven decks, for Bant Midrange and Standard, and all of the other universally loved things that I have absolutely no interest in. I just could not care less.
I'm telling you
about The Office.
Goodness. Well, look, I'm thankful for a Magic the Gathering spoiler season without a sponsored free preview. Not only because absence makes the heart grow fonder, but also now I know I have to suck up a little more. Yeah, Companion looks great, Wizards. That's A+ design. That's the cards that we want to buy. Let's buy the Magic packs, everybody. That ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Shalom.
Okay. All right. Let's move to our final.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Chag. As we move to the final slide, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Camel and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and we hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.